What's up, guys? Glad to be back with a new episode. Sorry I had to take a small hiatus to finish up some other music video projects the last few months, plus scheduling people for the podcast can sometimes be a few months out, and it's hard to just line everything up. But we have a special guest today who I'm proud to share the same name with, and no, I'm not interviewing myself. International chef and nephew, Nick Grosvenor. Now, Nick has traveled the globe honing his culinary skills to create some of the best dishes from places such as Alaska, the Florida Everglades, the San Juan Islands, San Diego, all the way to Bulgaria, as well as research in Turkey, Cyprus, Greece, Serbia, and Montenegro. Now, his portfolio of work is not only art that'll make you hungry, but it'll also make you want to travel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for future episodes, and let's go! My biggest issue, that's actually what I wanted to talk to you about, is waking up and eating.
Waking up and eating?
I can't do it.
You can't eat in the morning?
No, dude, I can't wake up and eat.
Oh my god, you have to.
I know they say breakfast is the most important, whatever, but I just can't. I have to be up for at least 3 or 4 hours before I eat something.
That's crazy. Yeah, the reason I think for that is a lot of people have said you need the carbs. You know, you need the carbs for the energy and all that stuff. Yeah. But, you know, recently I've been going to the gym a lot more, and I've been working with the trainer and everything. And he told me that actually the main thing is the protein. Within 15 minutes of waking up, your body is starving for protein, I guess. And so that's the main reason why you actually should eat in the morning.
So just load up on protein?
Correct.
Like peanut butter, meats, something like that?
Yeah, I mean, you could do like eggs, bacon, whatever it is, but
yeah. Also,
it's because you can put a lot of your carbs in your morning meal because you have the rest of the day to burn it off.
Oh, right, right. Right. See, I don't need to burn anything off.
I know, you probably have the metabolism of like a 15-year-old.
Yeah, I try to eat 3,000 to 4,000 calories a day, which is hard. And that's what my level is supposed to be. I hate you so much. I burn so much, dude. If I don't stick with it, I lose it. That's what everybody says.
Must be nice.
Man, it's hard for me too. Everybody's trying to lose weight. I'm trying to gain weight. It's just as hard, damn it.
It's a completely different struggle, though. I'll tell you what.
I know it's the opposite end of the spectrum, but it's still a struggle.
Yeah, if I eat whatever I want, I look like I eat whatever I want.
Oh, okay.
I don't burn anything off unless I try to burn it off. So
that's a good T-shirt. If I eat whatever I want, I look like I eat whatever I want.
Yeah.
Oh shit!
I think actually my 6th grade science teacher, she was the one who told me that, and I've just remembered it ever since.
Nice. So where are you at right now? You're in Utah?
Yes, I am in Park City, Utah currently.
Okay.
Working at a fine dining restaurant.
And then you were in Dallas, right? Doing the show?
Yeah, for the competition. So before that, I was in San Juan Island, working at Roche Harbor. Well, let's backtrack a little bit. I was working in the Florida Keys, and COVID hit, and so our restaurant got shut down. It was actually, when we shut down, it was my 47th day in a row working. 17-hour days. I was working 105 hours a week.
Jeez.
Yeah, so then all of a sudden we get this this memo that we were closing in like 5 hours. I remember it was like a Sunday, it was like March 27th or something like that, and we were closing in 5 hours. I can't tell you how excited I was. Like everybody was so upset, and I was the only one that was like, oh, thank God.
Wait, they were closing?
Yeah, anyway, we closed down for COVID.
Okay.
And so I had all this free time, and so I saw this this competition for the World Food Championships.
Mm-hmm.
So I entered it. I did not know that you could submit more than one dish, so I submitted one dish. I spent, I don't know, maybe 4 days working on this dish. Everybody else submitted, I'm assuming, the 10, you know. So there was thousands of dishes submitted. And so after I submitted my dish, I realized what I did. And so I thought for sure, there's no way I'm going to win, you know?
Yeah.
Waited 2 weeks for the deadline, you know, to end. And I checked their Facebook, and they announced me as the winner.
Whoa.
And I think I cried.
Mm.
I'm pretty sure I cried. Because the World Food Championships is the biggest food competition in the world.
Okay.
But also, it was just the first time that I had ever competed in anything culinarily and won, or ever. So yeah, the competition was supposed to happen 2020 in November in Dallas, and then obviously COVID was still happening, so they stopped it, postponed it. So then, yeah, I ended up going back to Roche Harbor Resort to work my second season at that time. And I spent the whole season working on this dish. The whole season. Or it was 2 dishes, actually, that I had to work on. And then, yeah, after the season ended, then I ended up going to Dallas and competing. It was like a 5-6 day event.
And so when you say working on the dish, like, you mean perfecting it or tweaking it, changing the recipe, or what?
Yeah. So actually a lot of time was spent just figuring out what I wanted to do. Like what dish, I wanted to cook. So a lot of time was spent researching some of the other previous years' winning dishes for my category. The judges change every year, so you can't really gauge it on like what each judge likes, which I actually kind of appreciated, because there's a lot of returnees, a lot of people that compete every year.
Yeah.
And so these people, if the judges were the same, could learn what each judge likes, you know what I mean?
Yeah, favoritism.
So yeah, a lot of time was spent just figuring out what I was going to do, and then I probably spent about, I would say, 4 or 5 months, like perfecting the dish that I decided I was going to do. The actual competition was so nerve-wracking. You don't realize you think working in a professional setting, you have a clock in your mind.
Right.
As to how long the dish has until it has to go out, right? So you think that would help you in terms of having a clock right up on like a projector screen,
Yeah,
like
the
being
countdown clock.
I cook all the time,
the D-Day clock.
Yeah, legit. But it doesn't prepare you for it. Like when you can look up and actually see a countdown, and there's hundreds of people around you in their own little kitchens.
Right.
I mean, it is just so nerve-wracking. So my first dish was Szechuan noodles. They tell you the first dish that you're supposed to submit.
Okay.
You have to use one of their sponsored ingredients and stuff. So I did a Szechuan noodle. I remember I had 5 minutes left until I had to submit this dish. So I have a video somewhere of me walking up with my dish, all leisurely,
Yeah, that's what I saw.
5 minutes. I had all the time in the world.
Yeah.
And then there's a video of me turning in my second dish with 10 seconds left. And I was running. Just
hauling ass.
Oh yeah. Well, and also like there's hundreds, if not thousands, of people standing around, spectators and everything.
Right.
And then there's people with big cameras. And there's people trying to run next to you with like little microphones, So yeah, the whole thing was just so very, very intense that my second dish, I actually did not get everything on the plate. So that did kind of screw me a little bit, but overall the experience was just amazing. I mean, the sense of camaraderie there is astonishing. Like you would think that it is very competitive.
Right.
God, what was it?
Nobody tried to sabotage anybody?
Yeah, like, see, that's the type of, like, thing that you think happens there. But actually, when I was the last person to turn in my dish for my second dish, the one where I had 10 seconds left, and if you finish cooking your dish, you actually can come help out other competitors.
Oh, okay.
So I had other competitors who, were done coming up to me. And I was also the only one in the entire competition across all 10 categories that competed by themselves.
Oh, okay.
So everybody else can have up to 2 other people in their little kitchen. But I had myself, because since I travel a lot, it would have been impossible for me to have anybody that I could like practice the dishes with.
Right.
So yeah, I had people coming up to me and asking me like, hey, do you want me to help you? Do you want me to chop that? Do you want me to blah, blah, blah? And I was being so stubborn because I wanted to win by myself. And so I also screwed myself because, yeah, had I had help, it would have been a breeze. But, yeah, I was like, no, I got it. And then I'm looking at my plate, and like half the things I didn't have on the plate, and I look up and there's 10 seconds and the referee is standing right in front of my table and he's counting down. He's going 12, 11, 10, 9, and I'm like, I didn't even have time to turn around and like put the sauce on the plate, so I just had to grab this tray and run.
Oh, geez. So submitting to the competition the first time, you could have done 10 dishes and you did one.
Correct.
Lesson leared. And then in the show, the other contestants could have came up and helped you, and you were like, nah, I got this.
Nah, I got it. I'm good.
Lesson learned.
Yeah, and then you pan over to me running through the arena.
Right. Trying not to spill your dish on the way.
Oh my God, yeah.
That's awesome. And I'm sure it's more stressful having that big clock, but also just the whole production being there. And did they come up and like interview you mid?
Oh yeah,
mid cooking.
Yeah,
that's so frustrating when I see that on TV. I'm like, I would just tell them I can't talk.
Oh yeah,
leave me alone.
And that's because like when I've watched, like Chopped, or
yeah.
like any of those other ones, where like they're sweating, they're dripping sweat, and they're running around, and they got like 30 seconds on the clock, and the person comes up to them with a microphone and puts it in their face and is asking them like what you're gonna do.
Right.
I'm just like, what a dick.
They do it on purpose. Yeah, that's production.
Yeah, I know,
for you.
but it's like you can clearly tell that they're like in the zone. They're trying to do their thing. The clock's ticking, and now you just separated their focus.
Yeah.
And so yeah, they did that to me about twice during the competition, where you're in the middle of doing all your stuff, and they walk up to you and they ask you, what you're preparing. What's your X factor, which is the thing that's going to separate your dish from the other dishes.
Yeah.
But you're not in that mindset, you're in the mindset.
You could care less about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I'm like, okay, this is what I have to do next. This is what I have to do after that. And then all of a sudden they just show up and you look up and they got the microphone in your face and they're like, so what are you preparing for us today? And you're like, can I swear?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. But you want to just say, fuck off.
Right.
Get out of my face.
You'll see what I'm preparing when I'm done. Leave me alone.
Yeah, when I put it in front of you,
Right.
But yeah, so obviously you can't say that. So
right.
You have to just smile and tell them, oh, today I'm preparing for you a beautiful duck breast with, as you're just like dripping sweat. And also, I mean, like, I know you've, been in movies and, you've worked in the industry and stuff. So for you, it might not seem like a big deal, but for somebody who's never really had to like stand in front of a camera, or anything like that, just that alone, even if they weren't asking you any questions, is so nerve-wracking.
Oh yeah.
Now couple that with the fact that they're asking you questions, with the fact that there's hundreds of people around you competing against you,
right,
and a clock that's counting down on the wall. It was by far the most nerve-wracking experience of my entire life.
It sounds like it's fourfold, because I completely understand what you mean. In front of the camera makes you nervous, but then people don't realize there's a full production crew right behind it with 20 people. But
exactly.
Then you have an audience as well, a live audience, and then that clock.
Yeah, because that's one thing too is, I don't know for you, but the camera necessarily, I guess, isn't so much the issue. The camera is just like a machine. If you're looking at it, it's the fact that, like you said, there's people behind the camera who are all staring at you, and so you have to like look into this camera and, pretend like there's not 50 to 100 people behind that camera all watching like everything you're saying. And
there are people though that I've seen where it's just a small crew. They try to keep it as small as possible, so that there isn't that nervousness. But as soon as that camera comes out, I've seen people just get nervous. It's just something about a camera being pointed at you makes you feel uncomfortable. Yeah. Well,
because it's I think it's because it's like cementing whatever you're doing. Whereas if you're just talking to a person,
right,
they're not like recording you where they can play it back.
Yeah, you're more self-conscious when there's a camera.
Yeah, you know, like people can like watch this over and over and like see little thing. I don't know. There's a whole thing.
I couldn't imagine doing an acting gig where you have to perform and there's actually a countdown clock. Do your scene. You got 1 minute. Go.
Yeah, that'd be terrible.
That should be the new style, new technique.
I'm sure movies would be terrible after that, but
yeah, keep them on budget though; they wouldn't go over.
Yeah, you got 1 take, 1 minute.
All the producers, yeah, they love that clock.
Oh yeah,
man. So before all that, we'd talked before about you traveling. I want to briefly run over like where you've traveled to and what cultures you've picked up and cuisines you've picked up in your travels.
Okay. Yeah. So to start out, the whole traveling thing came about because, you know, I had this mentality where people that grow up in a small little area and they never leave that area, they have a very small mindset. Mm-hmm. You know.
What are you talking about? You talking about meat and taters?
I don't know if that's even politically correct. I don't know if you can
I don't
say
care.
that.
I hear, I have got friends that say that. They're all here. They're meat and taters.
Sure.
I love meat and taters.
I mean, I love me some meat and taters too. I'm not going to hate on meat and taters, but but you're just surrounded with, you know, the same type of people who have the same mindset as you, the same culture, you know, and which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I think it fosters a small view of the world, if that makes sense. So, you know, when I was younger, I always knew I wanted to travel. I always had like a big view of the world, even though I grew up in little, you know, buttfuck Waterford in Michigan. But I didn't have any idea as to what the world was like. And so, yeah, when I started cooking, I felt like I was plateauing where I was at. Like I wasn't advancing. There's no restaurants in that area that are, you know, excelling or like pushing the envelope or anything like that. So I felt like at that point I had learned everything that I could learn there. So I was just like, you know what? I'm going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, and I'm just going to take a job in wherever I can, somewhere else, you know, outside the state, whatever. And I want to cook food that I've never cooked before. So my first job was actually at a little Cuban cafe in the Everglades of Florida. There wasn't anything around for like 45 minutes. But so they had a hard time staffing. So they provided me a house for free. I flew down there and I worked there for about 3 months cooking Cuban food, which at that point I had never cooked. You know,
Cuban?
Paellas and stuff like that. And it was such a learning experience for me because, one, I was around such different people. You know, I was working with Argentinians and Guatemalans and, you know, Mexicans and stuff like that. And just working with them and, like, learning a little bit of the language, a little bit of their cuisine, you know, it gave me more of an insight into their culture, you know, them as people. And also just, I don't know if you've ever been to the Everglades of Florida, but it's like, comparatively, it's like what I imagine Alabama is like.
Talking about swamp baiters.
Yeah, it's like, but like with a lot of like Latin people. So it was an interesting dynamic going down there, but I loved it. And so when the season ended, I ended up coming back to Michigan, and I was working at a Polish restaurant, which that was another thing. Even though I was coming back to Michigan, I knew that I wanted to do something different than what I had done. So I found a job at a Polish restaurant. I had never cooked Polish food.
Nice.
And then after about 6 months working there, I felt I had learned everything I could at that restaurant, and I was getting that the travel itch again. And so I saw a job in Alaska, working at a lodge in the national park. And so I just applied, not really thinking I was going to get it, to be honest. And then I got a call back, and I was like, oh my God, like I'm gonna move to Alaska, you know? So I did. I ended up, you know, quitting that job. I moved to Alaska. That Alaska, by the way, is one of the most beautiful places I have ever been, ever worked, ever lived.
That's what I've heard, yeah.
Oh, it's just so gorgeous, especially in the national park, because the national park is untouched.
Yeah.
Besides the park road that goes through it, it is fairly untouched. So there's cool little things that happen in the national park that happen because it hasn't been messed with by us. You know, one example I like to use is there's a population of hares in the national park. The hares are born with some sort of virus already inside of them. When the population of the hares gets too big, obviously all the foliage that they eat, they start eating way too much. The wolves migrate over because there's a large population of hares and that's food, and then it messes with the whole ecosystem. So then all of a sudden this virus activates inside the hares, and the hares start dying off.
Whoa.
And then the foliage grows back and the wolves migrate again. And so everything just kind of like
has a natural balance.
Yeah, it's like in sync, you know.
Wow.
Which, you know, if we were building roads through there and hunting and whatever, like none of that I don't think would happen. So
yeah.
It's just cool to see how nature is supposed to work.
Right.
You know,
when we don't mess it up.
Yeah, before we come in and start, you know, tinkering with stuff.
That's one of the 2 states I need to go to is Alaska and Hawaii, and then I've been to all 50.
You haven't been to Hawaii?
No. Why you gotta say it like that? No, I haven't been.
Well, you lived in California. I feel like a lot of people who lived in California, that's like an easy, you know.
Yeah, it's an easy jump. Yeah, but when you're living in California, it's financially hard to just go to Hawaii for a couple weeks.
I know. Yeah, I guess I forgot about that.
But
I was living in San Diego, as you know.
Yeah, exactly. You can't just pick up and just go to Hawaii for a week unless you're
I could barely get gas.
Right.
I had a hard time just getting to work.
Right, exactly.
Let alone taking a vacation to Hawaii.
Yeah, I mean that's on my bucket list. So I just gotta knock that state out, and then Alaska.
Yeah, and also, I always tell everybody, if you go to Alaska, try to go towards the end of the summer, early fall, because one, it's still beautiful. You still get that like summery, you know, there's no snow yet or anything, but also because the northern lights come out around anywhere from the end of August to the end of September.
Okay.
Which I saw, and it was life-changing.
Yeah.
Life-changing.
Nice.
Like, you look up, and there's just this one streak of light, which just looks weird. It almost looks like a jet stream, and light's like hitting it. And then all of a sudden, this straight stream just starts like moving, doing this, and it's like a piece of paper that's going like this. And then out of nowhere, it'll just explode. And then it's colors all over the sky, and they're dancing, and it's like magic.
Yeah.
It's the closest thing that you could ever see in real life to men.
And I'm assuming you have to be there to see it. Like you can't capture.
Oh
it.
yeah.
Like
you see pictures, you see videos, like that's cool. But until you're standing underneath it, and it becomes like a tangible thing that you can see, like it's unreal.
Yeah.
But Alaska in general was one of the best places I've ever worked. And then also that was a tipping point for me, career-wise, where that was the first place that I was working with people who had really like honed their craft. You know, a lot of the other places I worked, like they did what they did very well. But this was the first place where pretty much everybody I worked with were chefs, not just cooks. Right. You know, the difference that I like to explain to people is a cook knows how to do something, and a chef knows why you're doing it.
I was literally about to ask you that to explain it for people. I've heard an explanation before, but that makes sense right there.
Yeah, like, you know, a cook might know how to make sourdough bread, but a chef knows exactly why you're doing the steps that you're doing. You know, why you might add this or not add that, or what time you're going to add it. You know, a cook can just follow a recipe essentially. So yeah, anyway, my point is that I worked with all chefs, and so that really like catapulted my knowledge. And then also just seeing them do what they were doing and, you know, feeding off their knowledge, it really like ignited a flame underneath me to like pursue that much more so.
Good.
And so then, yeah, after I left Alaska, and then when I was in Alaska, I started dating a Bulgarian girl. As you tend to do when you work seasonally, you know, we have what's called J1s or H2Bs. J1s get visas for the year or like 4 months, and they're sponsored by their job. And then H2Bs, they can stay here for however long, as long as they find another job to get sponsored by.
The work visa.
But they're all for the what?
Work visa program.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And usually it's like college students. They can do it while they're in college and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I met this Bulgarian girl. We ended up dating after the first, 3 weeks. And so after the season ended, obviously she had to go back to Bulgaria.
Mm-hmm.
And so we ended up going to Hawaii on vacation, and then we went to Chicago, and then we parted ways from Chicago. And so I told her that I would move to Bulgaria. Like, I know, it sounds crazy, but I'm telling you, love makes you stupid.
Something had to change. Yeah, either she had to
come
back
but love
or you had to
also
go.
makes you stupid. You make stupid decisions when you're in love. So I ended up going over to Bulgaria for New Year's. I was there for like a week. And then I came back. And so then from that point on, I had planned my move. Like once I came back, I was like, oh my God, it's gorgeous there. Because when I went there, we also went to Istanbul. We went to Greece. Went to all these places. And so I knew I wanted to be there. You know, not just with her, but also because the culture is so amazing over there. So then, yeah, in April, I ended up moving over there. I was there for 3 months. Ended up getting a job at this like super high-end restaurant illegally. I did not have my work visa because I was stupid. I didn't know that if you get a work visa, you have to get it in your country before you go to that country.
Okay.
I thought I could go there and it would actually make it easier. Like, oh, I'm in the country already. Like,
I got this job
just give me
lined
my
up.
work visa.
Yeah,
you know?
I'm already working. Just paperwork.
They're like, what? You're already working?
Yeah.
Get out of here. So yeah, I got there and then I tried to get my work visa, and then once I realized that, I was like, oh my God, like no matter what at that point, I knew I was gonna have to go back, you know?
Yeah.
So then, yeah, when I ended up coming back, we separated because we just realized it was too much of a hassle, you know, for me to go back over there. And then it was not long after that is when I took my first season at Roche Harbor on San Juan Island, which has been my recurring summer position for this will be my fourth summer.
Okay.
Yeah. And that place I love because, one, it's also like the second most beautiful place I've ever been. But two, I kind of like how it's this like, it's got the small town vibe, but not the small town mentality.
Right.
If that makes sense.
That's the one up in Washington State, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, from Roche Harbor, the resort that I work at, you can look across and see Canada.
Right.
Like that's how close it is. It's like 5 miles.
Yeah. All those little islands up there near Seattle, Washington State.
Yeah.
I was born on Whidbey Island over there.
You were born on Whidbey?
Mm-hmm.
No way.
I told you that.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh well, now I feel like a dick. Sorry.
No, it's one of our random text chats.
Oh yeah.
I was born on Whidbey Island.
I've never been to Whidbey. How is Whidbey?
I don't remember it, so don't know. I was just born there. I think I was like 1 when we moved. I was just born on Whidbey Island because your grandpa was stationed up there in Oak Harbor.
Oh yeah, I do remember this conversation.
Yeah, and then we
moved
you
guys
to Maine.
moved to Maine.
Yeah, and that's when me and your dad lived together for a stint.
How was Maine? Because Maine is on my bucket list.
Maine is gorgeous. Maine is like Washington State. Like the trees and the foliage, it's just gorgeous up there, especially spring and fall.
Does it get a lot of snow?
Yeah, from what I remember, there was a lot of snow, but I just remember the fun summertime, spring, and ice cream truck coming by and getting Ninja Turtle ice creams with the hard gumballs that break your teeth.
Oh, yeah, that breaks your
That's what I
teeth.
remember.
Yeah.
Yep. And we used to ride bikes and go down
That's
to the
hilarious.
Dairy Queen down the street. Like, it was a lot of outdoor, just gorgeous out there.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's probably number like 3 on my bucket list as far as states that I
Wait,
want
you
to
haven't been to
visit.
Maine?
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. I see why it's insulting now.
I'm just kidding. So, other than that, though, like, what other countries and cultures have you studied and cooked?
So then after Roche Harbor, my what was it? My first season. God, where did I go? Yeah. So after my first season at Roche, was when I went to the Florida Keys.
Okay.
I went back to Michigan, and then I went back to Seattle, and then I lived in Seattle for about 3 months. The thing, like, I love Seattle.
Uh,
I love it during the summertime, but fall and wintertime, like, man, people have to just be killing themselves left and right.
right.
Like, it is so depressing in Seattle in the wintertime. Like, I was there for 3 months, and I would have to say it rained maybe 2 days out of those 3 months. It did not rain.
Yeah.
Like, I literally contemplated ending my life almost every day because it was just so dreary and depressing. And you can't walk around with an umbrella because because there's like a stigma there where if you walk around with an umbrella, like, you're a tourist and everybody's looking at you.
What?
Yeah, it's weird.
Why?
Everyone just accepts it. Everyone just accepts that they're just wet.
like,
Yeah,
I'm
they're
just
just
gonna
wet
get
all
wet.
the time, and it just
Just
is what it is.
plan your day. Like,
Yeah, around this like torrential downpour. So yeah, I ended up leaving there for the Florida Keys. That's how much it messed with my.
you needed
I was
sunshine.
like, okay, this is so depressing and dreary that I am going to the farthest spot in the United States away from here. And so
Is it-
yeah, I ended up going to the Keys. I was on Big Pine Key.
Okay.
Looked at Little Palm Island Resort, which, as far as actual like resorts that I've worked at, it is gorgeous. I mean, it's the only private island resort in the United States. It's literally just like maybe like one block. Like, that's how big the island is as a whole. The whole island is just this resort. And I mean, just imagine like tropical resort, like tiki hut, cabins. And also the food there that we were making was also like a step above anything I had done, at that point. Besides Europe. When I was in Europe, we were doing like molecular gastronomy, which I don't know if you know what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a lot more of the like modern cooking.
I call that
using liquid
future
nitrogen.
food.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like everything.
It was more like
futuristic
science
and
experiments
science
than
experiment,
actually
yeah.
like cooking.
Sous vide and all that stuff that they're
Yes,
doing.
exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, then when I went there, it was, besides that, it was a lot more elevated. But also just, I mean, you can imagine the Florida Keys are absolutely gorgeous.
Right.
The only thing, and I don't want it to feel like I have a complaint about every place that I've lived. I don't know if that says something about me, but
No.
I do. I have a complaint about every place that I've
There's positive and
lived.
negatives for everything, so that's a balance.
So it's gorgeous. Obviously, it was hot, but I don't know if you know what no-see-ums are. Okay, so no-see-ums are like molecular-sized mosquitoes
Ooh.
that run in gangs, like of thousands of them. So if you're pretty much at nighttime, like from dusk, like when the sun's just setting until when the sun's just rising is like the worst times for them. But if you go out there with any skin showing, I mean anything, your eyelids, doesn't matter what it is, they
get
will
tore
find it. They will find it and they will bite you.
Ugh.
And
And
it's not like a mosquito bite where mosquito bites don't hurt. They just are eventually itchy.
Yeah.
These hurt and then they're 10 times as itchy as a mosquito.
Are they like little
Oh, it's
gnats or
terrible.
something? Like,
Yeah, but
Ugh.
smaller than a gnat.
Oh,
Like
jeez.
you can't see them. Hence
Yeah.
the name no-see-ums.
No CMs.
But yeah,
Okay.
yeah, they were ungodly. So was my only complaint about the Florida Keys. Other than that, yeah, it was absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, actually that leads me into, so then when I was there was when I won my qualifying competition for the World Food Championships. And my buddy who worked at Roche Harbor still, he contacted me about potentially coming back. And so I saw it as an opportunity for me to, because he was a good chef as well, for me to pair with him. And then I was going to have him actually help me during the competition. He was going to be one of my sous.
Okay.
So I ended up going back to Roche for my second season. And it ended up not working out with him. He ended up quitting. And so we didn't end up working together for the competition or anything, but that led me into, because I had no plans at that point of returning for another season at Roche.
Oh,
Roche
okay.
Harbor. But then during my second season, after he left, I became the head chef of the restaurant that I was working at, because I got hired as the sous chef, and then after he left, I took over. And it gave me a better appreciation for the resort and the island and everything, you know. And so, yeah, the second season was the season where I was like, okay, this is going to be like a place that I go to every summer, you know.
Right.
It kind of became like a second home.
Second
I
home,
guess you
yeah.
could say.
Headquarters.
Yeah, that's my hub.
Yeah, yeah. So what led you to San Diego?
So a job. I mean, pretty much most of the places that I've worked or that I've lived, it's for work. You know,
Right.
that's obviously the whole thing. So when I finished my second season at Roche Harbor, I contacted the restaurant group that owns Little Palm Island Resort, because I thoroughly enjoyed working there, and I also enjoyed, even though it's corporate, because it was owned by a restaurant group, I enjoyed how they ran the resort. You know, a lot of places that are corporate, they're not great to work for, but this place, they actually cared about their employees and everything, you know. So I ended up contacting the actual restaurant group, the vice president of the restaurant group, because he was over at Little Palm Island while I was working there. And so I got his phone number and everything. We became pretty close. And I asked him, I'm like, hey, is there any like resorts that, you know, are hiring right now for sous chefs? I mean, cooks, like anything, whatever. Because they have restaurants all over. I mean, there's like, I don't know, 6 or 7 of them. And so he told me that there was a restaurant that was hiring in just outside San Diego at the time. Can't remember what it's called now, but the chef who works there now, he was the sous chef at the Willows Inn from Lummi Island. I don't know if you know what that is.
Lummi Island.
Okay, so the Willows Inn it was an inn from, I don't know, the 1800s or whatever, and then it ended up closing down, and it was vacant for a long time. And then this guy, Chef Blaze, I can't remember Blaine? I think Blaine. Anyway, he worked at Noma in Copenhagen.
Oh, okay.
Do you know Noma?
I don't know Noma, but I know Copenhagen.
Okay. So Noma is a 3 Michelin star restaurant. It has been consistently in like the top 3 restaurants in the world on World's 50 Best. It is arguably the best restaurant in the world. I mean, the stuff they're doing over there is just insane, cutting edge. And so this guy he worked under Rene Redzepi, which is the chef of Noma, for, I don't know, like a year or 2. And so then he ended up coming over and buying the Willows Inn, and he's turned it into just this amazing place that locally sources all their ingredients, you know. It's kind of like the Noma of over here, you know.
Right.
So anyway, the chef of this place that I was going to work on, he worked under that guy.
Okay.
And so I was like, oh, this is an amazing opportunity, you know.
Yeah.
And so then when I left Roche Harbor, I had my U-Haul, and it was towing our car. And the first day, I ended up stopping in Federal Way, Washington, which I didn't know, but apparently is the ghetto of Washington. Because, like, being from Michigan, like, I know what a ghetto looks like. You know, you look across and there's, like, pawn shops and there's, you know, jewelry stores, whatever. Like, a ghetto and liquor stores, a ghetto in my mind has a certain look. The ghettos in Washington State do not look like ghettos. There's Buffalo Wild Wings and there's a Starbucks and stuff. Like, it's not the same ghettos. So I ended up stopping because it was raining. And I didn't know that I was stopped in a bad area, so I ended up going into the hotel, parked my U-Haul and everything right outside under light, and I came out in the morning, and my whole entire U-Haul with the car was gone.
Whoa.
Stolen.
This train hijacked you.
I know. So, like, and this was, at the time, this was the first time that my girlfriend, who I was moving to San Diego with, this was the first time she had ever lived off of the island.
Oh.
So this is her first experience with, like, moving off of
outside the island.
San Juan Island. She's like, the world's a scary place.
Welcome to the rest of America,
yeah. Yeah. Welcome to the real world. This is what it's like.
So all your stuff was gone?
Yes. So all of our stuff was stolen. At first I thought that I got it towed or something. Like, I parked in an area that I wasn't supposed to park. So I called all the tow places in the area, and then I realized that it was not towed, so I ended up calling the police. They found it 5 hours later, parked behind this middle school, and the people had sawzalled the latch that opens up the back hatch.
Yeah.
And they had popped the lock out of the door to get in, and, like, drilled into the ignition. Like, it was a whole. They had tools, you know. Like,
it's those goddamn middle school kids, man. It's a gang of middle school kids.
I'm telling you. I should have known, because when I was in middle school, I hated all the kids. They were all dicks. So I knew that this is what they do. But so yeah, we found it, and so we found it, and it was just empty. I mean, all the stuff that was left in there was empty boxes, and you know, it always surprised me too, because we had a box of, like, liquor in there, like half empty or half drank bottles of liquor and stuff, and they stole everything besides the liquor. I know,
because they're middle schoolers, they're underage, they can't drink. So they don't need that shit.
That makes sense. Why didn't I think of that?
Telling you.
So yeah, so they asked me, like, do you what do you want to do? Because honestly, it would have been better had they not found it, because then we could have just, you know, flown to San Diego, figured everything out. But now they found it, and now I had to deal with having this, like, broken U-Haul. With, luckily our car was still attached to the U-Haul. They busted out the window, but they couldn't steal the car because I bought this, like, special cable lock that, like, attached it to the trailer. So now I was like, I have to get the window fixed. I have to turn in this U-Haul, which I also opted out of the insurance coverage. Because who thinks that their U-Haul is going to get stolen?
Yeah, I never buy the insurance.
Yeah, I mean, I have now. Every single time something offers insurance, I buy it, because you never know. But
wait, real quick. So was this a standalone U-Haul that you can drive, or was it the trailer that you hooked to your car?
This is a standalone, like a truck.
Okay. So they stole the truck, U-Haul,
the whole truck,
and your car?
With the trailer attached to it that had our car on it.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Gotcha. So you were hauling your car with the U-Haul. Gotcha.
With the U-Haul, correct.
Okay.
So we had the car. I ended up having to just return the U-Haul, all busted up. I had to deal with the insurance issues. Spent thousands of dollars on that. We drove to San Diego, now with nothing.
Yeah.
You know. And while I was driving down to San Diego, California shut down again for COVID.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm driving down for a job. I had just got an apartment in downtown San Diego that was fairly expensive, but it was okay because I had this job, you know, that was going to pay well, and now I'm unemployed. I have nothing to my name. I have this lease that was like $2,500 a month. I was like, oh my God, I just made the worst financial decision of my entire life. But yeah, so I was like unemployed for like 5 months while this restaurant was waiting for the closure to, go away. And so I ended up, during this time, a buddy of mine was working at another resort in San Diego, actually. He actually came over to help us out over at Little Palm Island for like a week when we were opening. And great chef. I mean, super cool guy. He was like a surfer guy, so he's like super chillax and all that. So I called him up and I was like, hey man, you guys hiring? Like, I just need a job. Like, I don't care what it is. And so he ended up actually hiring me. At that time, he needed a sous chef. So he hired me as the executive sous chef of his resort. And it was better pay, better everything. So ultimately it did end up work out.
There you go.
But I didn't really like California. So I ended up having to leave because I was just, the culture there is different, as you know, I'm sure.
Different. Yeah. So, I saw that you bought a new knife.
Oh, yeah. All right.
How exciting was that?
So, I mean, obviously that's like a thing that I have to do in my career, but no matter how many times I do it, buying a new knife is one of the most satisfying things for me. And it always comes about because I have some task at work, some item that I have to prep where I'm like, God, I just wish I had a better tool for this specific job, Yeah. So now I have like 12 knives because I always come across like one singular task that I'm like, I have a knife that's like almost good enough, but I'm like, there has to be a better knife out there. And so now I have 12 different knives for literally like one task,
Yeah.
But yeah,
like
when
a
I bought
mechanic
that
and their
knife,
tools.
I mean, that was like a $400 knife.
I was literally about to ask that, how much it costs, because I know those things are expensive.
Oh yeah, Japanese knives are my favorite because they're, generally speaking, they're high carbon knives. So high carbon knives, they're harder, so they keep an edge for a lot longer. The downfalls for them though are that unless you get a knife that is like stainless steel clad, they rust like immediately. So if I cut into anything that has any sort of acidity, like a lemon, onion, anything like that, if I set it down without wiping it off, within like 10 seconds, it'll start to rust.
Oh, okay.
Like, it's crazy. And then also, because of the hardness, they're very fragile, actually. Because, like, German steel is more flexible. So it keeps an edge for a lot less time, but you can cut through, like, cartilage and things like that without the blade chipping, because the blade has, like, slight give, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Also, with the Japanese ones, they might chip if you're cutting through cartilage.
Like, you're not supposed to, like steels, like a honing steel.
Yeah.
You can't use those on Japanese knives.
Oh, okay. So
because
you
of
can't
the
sharpen
impact. Yeah, because of the impact. Like, you could literally chip your blade every single time you use it.
So how do you sharpen it?
So you have to use a whetstone.
Whetstone, okay.
You have to sharpen it on a stone.
But people undervalue how important it is to have a sharp knife, I think. Like the average everyday person.
There's the old adage in kitchens that you're more likely to cut yourself on a dull knife than a sharp knife. See,
now Cena might argue that because we just got some sharp knives. And what do I go and do? I go and cut myself the first time. It's too damn sharp. I'm used to having dull knives for some reason. And then when you have a sharp knife that just cuts through something like butter, you're like, oh my God, this is so nice. And then I nicked my hand. And then the second, I did it twice, honestly. So the first time I was cutting something and I cut my finger. And the second time I took it out and I pulled it out of its sleeve. But it was like wet. Whoever washed it, it was like still wet. And so it slipped and then it sliced my finger open. But
oh my God, you cut yourself not even using the knife?
Not even using it for its intended purpose.
I
just took it out of its sleeve. I was like, oh, fuck, there goes my finger. Yeah, and they're so sharp that you just barely touch it and it just takes it down to the bone. It's like, holy shit.
Oh, I mean, trust me, I still cut myself quite frequently. But the thing with dull knives is that they'll catch. So like a sharp knife, as long as you know how to like hold your hands, which is like curling your fingers.
Don't do this.
Yeah, don't do this.
Yeah.
Don't do this, everybody.
Yeah, I gotta learn the knuckle thing.
Oh yeah. So you're gonna use your middle finger as the guide.
Yeah.
So you're gonna curl your fingers and then use the middle finger as the guide for where you're cutting. You'll never cut yourself that way.
I'll probably be the first one to do it. I'll cut my knuckle. Damn it!
You're gonna end up on one of those like Gordon Ramsay reacts videos.
Yeah,
where you're like doing it, and he's like, "Oh, good job,
oh, you fucking donut."
Yeah. And then you cut yourself, and he's like,
"Well, Nick said to use the knuckle as a guide. I guided it into my knuckle." Yeah, that's basically how it'll go.
But yeah, so like I said, you're more likely to cut yourself on a dull knife because it's gonna slip. You have to force it much more. You know, there's a lot more like unnatural motions that you have to do when you use a dull knife. Right. Because a knife, I know it sounds corny, but it's supposed to be an extension of your hand. You know, you should be able to move a knife as if it's like your finger. You know, you know everything. But if it's a dull knife, you have to start forcing things, and that's when it becomes dangerous.
Right. What would you say is one of your favorite things to? I know you probably have a million things to cook, but what's one of your go-to favorite things? I saw the tuna you posted the other day. God damn, that looked good. I had to eat before we hopped on here too, by the way, so I wouldn't get hungry while we're talking. Yeah, the wahoo tuna, that looked good.
He said the tuna.
Well, what am I supposed to say? Is that ahi tuna or wahoo tuna?
So wahoo is it's a fish native to Hawaii. So in Hawaiian they call it ono.
Right. Oh, by the way, one of my favorite barbecue joints in California and I think Arizona now is Ono Hawaiian Barbecue.
Ono Hawaiian Barbecue.
It's hands down. I will pay anybody to ship me some. I'll fly out there just for it. I want to open a franchise of Ono Hawaiian Barbecue.
Are they sponsoring this podcast? Is that
why? Sponsored by Ono Hawaiian Barbecue. If you like Hawaiian barbecue, yeah. Are you hungry? Do you like barbecue?
This podcast brought to you by Ono Hawaiian Barbecue.
Do you like spam musubi? Barbecue chicken?
I actually love spam musubi. Spam musubi, and there's another one, I think they call it Loco Moco. And it's a breakfast food. So it's like spam, rice, a brown gravy sauce, and egg. And it is. If you're hungover in Hawaii, like that's what you have to eat. It is by far the best hangover cure.
Yeah, they've got good cuisine there.
But yes, that was one of the specials, the Ono dish. That was one of the specials that we just ran. Because right now we're doing a prefix menu. So a prefix menu is a fixed price menu. So you pay, X amount of dollars when you come in, and you get the same courses as everyone else. Instead of you coming into a restaurant, they hand you a menu. You're like, I want this as the appetizer, this is the entree, blah, blah, blah. You come in, and then you can choose between a 6-course or an 8-course tasting menu. You pay whatever it is, and then we send out the dishes. Generally speaking, there's no temps. Everything's medium rare or however it's intended to be cooked.
Right.
If you want to be, a piece of shit, you can get your steak cooked well done, I guess. For everybody listening, don't order your steak well done. We do judge you, and you're a dick.
That's a golden rule: is you just order how the chef recommends it. Yeah, that's what I like about. Have you had Umami Burger, the chain? They have them in LA and I think Chicago. No. So they make really good burgers, and it used to be medium or medium rare. It was the only way you could get it, but it was a really good burger. Yeah. Now though, we went back years later now, and we went back and they allow you to choose how it's cooked. So they've changed.
No.
Yeah.
They sold out.
What? Yeah, they did.
They sold out.
They went corporate.
Yeah, they started getting chains, and then they're like, we gotta accommodate the pieces of shit.
Probably. Yeah, the pieces of shit. Nothing sets off a steak like some ketchup.
Yeah, see, there's got to be a line. You gotta draw a line as a professional who respects, his cuisine, and that's the line. The line is, we do not serve steaks with ketchup.
Yeah.
We don't care if you request it. You're not getting it. You're not getting it. It's just, I'll cook it well done and I'll judge you, but I'm not giving you ketchup.
Well done. Oof. So what do you recommend? Medium, medium rare, rare?
Medium rare. And there's actually a reason for that. And so I'm going to explain it to everybody.
Sweet. Go for it.
So the reason why medium rare is the perfect temperature is because fat starts rendering at 120 to 125 degrees. That's when fat will render. So if you cook it underneath that, like a lot of people, you know, they like their rare or their blue rare, the fat will not be rendered. And so it'll still be tough. Chewy, you know. The fat also won't be melted into the meat, which everyone knows fat is the flavor.
Right.
You know. If you cook it over 125 degrees, then you're cooking the fat out of it. It's rendered now, and now it's leaking out. So now your meat is becoming more dry as you cook it.
And less flavorful.
So 120 to 125 degrees for beef is the perfect temperature because the fat will be rendered, the flavor will be cooked into the meat, it won't be dry. So yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you have it.
Now
medium
everyone
rare,
knows that's how you order a steak.
Yeah. Otherwise you're a piece of shit.
Or else you're a piece of
What's some other awesome recipes that you recommend or things you prefer to cook?
That's such a difficult question. I
know
get asked
it
that
is.
question a lot in
I know, I'm a
interviews.
piece of shit.
Yeah, so like I get asked that question a lot. What do you like to cook? Honestly, like me personally, I'm a sauce person. I love sauces.
Me too, I love condiments,
Yeah, like in the kitchen, I will take like all these different things in the fridge and just start putting them together and just see, you know, what I get. It's not always good, you know, but that's how you learn. So yeah, I like pasta. I think pasta is probably one of my favorite things to eat. Unfortunately, because I don't have the metabolism of my uncle here, so I eat pasta and I look like I eat pasta. But no, I like pastas because one, there's so many different variations of actual types of pasta. I like the art of making pasta themselves.
Fresh,
I think it's yeah, exactly. Like watching people make pasta, especially by hand, is one of the most like satiating things for my soul. You know, and then the sauces, yeah, there's just an unlimited amount of things that you can make and turn into a sauce that I just feel like pasta is the most versatile of all of the types of dishes, you know.
I won't ask you any more stupid questions like that.
I appreciate it.
Okay, have you ever had boba?
Boba. Is that boba tea?
Yeah, man. No?
No, I haven't.
You're not
I know it's
try
a
it?
trend right now. I just can't get behind little balls popping in my mouth when I drink something. It's
so good. It's like a different texture. It's like something to chew on. The tapioca.
Although, yeah, I think I went to this ice cream place this one time, and it was like custard ice cream, and they had all these different this assortment of ingredients that you could put on your ice cream.
Yeah.
And they did have these little squishy like ball like juice type things. I don't know if it was boba, but if it was, they were delicious.
Well,
But
if it was
eating
the juice ones, then it was probably the popping pearls.
Oh, okay.
But the
So no, I've never had
boba's like
boba,
a tapioca.
but those were really good. And I feel like if boba is even remotely similar to that, I like eating it. Like eating it with
but
something would be
having
fine.
it in a straw
But-
is weird.
Yeah, and like drinking it. Also, okay, that actually leads me into a terrible story, but
Yeah.
I think the reason for that is because your brother, my dad, when I was like, I had to have been like 8 or something. I remember we went to the pumpkin patch, and it was like super hot or something. So I ended up sitting in the car, and he had this McDonald's cup sitting in the center console, and I was so thirsty.
I already know where this is going. Oh shit! Because I know what
So
happened.
I
Probably.
took it, and I took like 3 big gulps, and it was his loogie cup.
Oh, I thought it was cigarette butts. But that's worse.
And so and I swallowed it. I mean,
Blech.
to this
Blech.
day, to this day, I can remember the feeling of that. And
Uh,
so I feel like that's what I associate with boba.
uh, I've had that happen before. We was at a friend's house. We had like parties and stuff like that when we were younger. And I remember taking a drink out of a straw with a lid on it, like McDonald's cup, whatever. But I remember tasting it, and I looked into somebody stuck a cigarette butt in there. They put out their cigarette in it,
Oh no.
and I had drank. But a loogie cup too. Ugh.
Yeah, that's actually happened to me because of my own self though, because I smoke. So I've forgotten that my
Oh, this the butt
cup of
cup.
water. Yeah, and so I've done that more times than I'd like to admit, honestly.
Yeah. Ugh. Ugh.
Or like a beer can, like at a party.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, you walk
Those
away for a
all
second,
day,
somebody puts
yeah.
it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Still full, so you don't feel the weight. And you're like, oh, it's
Oh yeah,
good.
you just say, oh no, nice.
All
Just
you
get
did
a
is
mouthful
shake
of
it up
cigarette
even more.
butt.
Let me mix this cigarette butt up a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. You shake this up, get all the flavor.
Man, oh, you want to know an interesting story about your grandfather?
Oh, yes.
So, well, I don't even think your dad knows this. So, we grew up in Colorado most of the time, and that's where he got sick. He got cancer, right?
Yeah.
And Cena always asked me to tell this story. Um, so when he got really sick, we had to push him around in a wheelchair and like take care of him. He had cancer. He did not want to pass in the hospital, so he came home. He was at home, and he was in hospice. The nurse would come visit, and I remember me and your uncle TJ, who also passed away from cancer, we were upstairs, and then your grandpa and then my mom Dreama were downstairs, and the stairs that go up, right by the bottom of the stairs was your grandpa's lazy boy recliner, like a big recliner that he got because it was hard for him to sit or walk, so he had to sit a lot.
Yeah.
And he was downstairs on the couch, laying on the couch, and my mom Dreama was with him all night. And I remember waking up and walking upstairs, and he was just throwing up blood, pure blood, everywhere.
Oh my god.
And we had to sit there and hold bowls for him to throw up in, and then run to the bathroom and dump him out, and then come running back. And that was like 3 hour process, like of just seeing all this dark black blood. I remember the smell to this day.
Oh my god.
And he said his final words, stuff like that, and then he started hallucinating, and then his eyes finally rolled up in his head. And so he passed away in the house, right? And my mom still had to work. And so she was working like 2 jobs, and me and my brother were always at home while she was at work.
Yeah.
And it was a couple days after, I remember we were upstairs in our room, and I was sitting there, the TV was right there, and I'm sitting on the floor, and then the door from the stairs was right to the left.
Right.
And we used to hear thump, 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 thump. Now, your grandfather was 6'6", really tall,
Yeah.
180, 200 something pounds, Navy guy, and I remember hearing tuk, 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 and the door was like open, and then you could just kind of feel this cold, and I just remember looking over and just like, I still get goosebumps to this day. And I remember I'd be like, "We're okay, Dad," and then
Oh my god.
you would hear tuk, tuk, tuk,
Like it was going away.
going back down the stairs. Yeah, he was coming up to check on us. My brother would sit there in the bed, and we'd just like freak out. And it was so bad that my best friend Jay Monroe, shout out to Jay Monroe, he came over to sleep over one night, and it happened. And we were in the bunk bed,
No way.
and I heard it, tuk, 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 and Jay goes, "What is that?" And I go, "Oh, that's my dad. He's just coming to check on us," And I'm like, it's normal to me now,
Yeah.
but he's sitting there like pissing his pants. And the same thing, you would hear it stop at the top of the steps, and I would go, "We're okay, Dad," and then you hear tuk, 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 going back
He's
down.
like-
Jay Monroe pissed his pants. He never slept over. He never stayed over again after that. And then
He's like, all right, time for me to head out.
he was like under the sheet. Never came back
yeah.
over after that. I had to go to his house to play Legos or whatever. But one time that happened, and me and your uncle TJ, decided we were gonna follow it back downstairs. And so we hear it tuk, 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 going downstairs, and we peek and start going down the stairs. And as we come down the stairs, you can see over the railing, which was a metal see-through, railing, and all we saw was the recliner doing this, just rocking. And so we
You're making this up. There's no way, right? I
swear to God. And so we walked down the stairs.
Oh my God.
And your uncle, my brother TJ, we stopped next to the chair, and it's going like this. And my brother barely puts his hand on it, and it just goes. And then you can hear like footsteps going towards the bathroom, like down the hall. And the carpet, you could hear the carpet.
I wouldn't care if that was a loved one or not.
It was freaky.
I have to move now.
well, that's interesting because...
Sorry, Dad, but I'm out.
Yeah, it's interesting. We moved to Missouri from Colorado. And in the house we were in here, in Missouri, there's a long hallway, and there's the master bedroom doors right at the end of the hallway.
Yeah.
And my mom's bed was there, and there was it's like an older bed with like shelves as the headboard, and there were mirrors on the headboard. And I remember I was in the house by myself, and I look down the hallway, and in the mirror I see a flannel shirt cross by. Not in front of the bed, though. I didn't see it in the bed. I only saw it in the mirror.
In the mirror.
Yeah. And your grandfather was buried in his flannel shirt. He always wore a flannel shirt. That was like his go-to comfort thing,
Yeah.
Was a flannel shirt, and so he was buried in that. So I only saw that once.
That's great.
Yep. Your grandfather was haunting us for...
Yeah, I have never had any sort of ghost encounter. Although, well, I do have one, but it was like a hallucination. Full disclosure, when I was younger, I wasn't the savory individual you see before you. So I experimented with a lot of drugs and whatnot. And so I took some drugs, and I was laying in bed one night, and I started hallucinating where the whole room turned green, and all the lights started like playing tricks on my eyes. And I look over, and have you seen the movie The Ring?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I look over, and I see, like, in complete detail, I see the Ring girl.
Oh,
I don't know her name, but it was her. And she was floating with her toes, like, just barely touching the ground.
Oof.
I could see, like, the strands of her hair, you know what I mean? Like, she was there. For all intents and purposes, in my mind, she was there. And I was frozen in fear. But I knew that I had to turn on the light that was right next to her. Like, I could end this whole thing if I just turned on that light. But I was so petrified in fear that I was just staring at her, like, shaking, like, almost like sleep paralysis. And so finally I, like, mustered up enough energy and motivation to just, and I, like, ran screaming towards her, like, and then flipped on the light. And it's a coat hanging on my doorknob.
Oh, yeah.
But I was so embarrassed of myself that happened. But that was, like, the closest experience I've ever had to, like,
that'll do
seeing anything supernatural.
Do you remember what it was you took?
I do, but I'm not. We don't need to.
Yeah, but if you remember what it was you took, you're probably like, I'm not doing that again.
Never did it again, I'll tell you what.
There you go. Yeah, every time you post something, I'm like, God damn, that looks good. I need to go where he's at or get him out here or something.
I'll tell you what, I'm not coming to Missouri.
Yeah, right. But have you ever been?
I have not.
You haven't been to Missouri?
Okay. All right, that one doesn't work, though.
No, it doesn't, because there's no reason to come here.
There's no reason. Yeah, the fact that you call it misery is enough for me. That's all I need to know about the place.
That's all it is, man. It's chill. It's a cool place. It's just...
Yeah, but at least you still like travel for like work and different projects and everything, you know?
They call it the flyover state.
Why do they call it that?
Because that's what you do, is you fly over it.
You just fly right over it.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
'cause
Missouri.
yeah, you like connect from New York to Chicago or Chicago to Dallas or wherever to LA, and you're flying over the Midwest of Missouri. My friends actually opened up a restaurant here. They have a really nice restaurant here, and it's called Flyover because of that.
It's called Flyover.
Yeah, it's called Flyover, and they have a
That's
big
pretty funny, actually.
propeller airplane as their sign.
He's like, it's called Flyover, but we actually do want you to come in. Please, please stop.
This episode sponsored by Flyover and Oh No Hawaiian Barbecue. Just,
Flyover.
right, it's right there. Man. Well, good catching up, bruv. I appreciate you hopping on.
Yeah.
Everybody go like his Instagram, Facebook, follow him, send him a message if you need any recipes or suggestions. If you're a sous chef or a cook or want to get into it, Nick has a lot of insight into it, a lot of experience, so feel free to reach out to him.
Absolutely.
Cool.
I welcome anybody to ask me any questions.
ngrosvenor92 on Instagram and Nick Grosvenor on Facebook. All the links will be down below if you're watching this on YouTube, on the podcast. If you're listening to this on anything else, then those are what they are. Just look up Nick Grosvenor. Thanks for hopping on,
All right,
man. All right, bro. See ya.
Have a good one.